Hey everyone, been a while since I've made my last video, and I've had a new watch for the last about 3 weeks, month or so. So I figured I'd better make a video on it, and I'll just dive right into it. Here's the box it comes in. Seiko Pro Specs, a little bit different affair with the longer box. Interesting to have something a little bit different. I like it. Yes, I have changed to white gloves. Two reasons for that. One, minor reason, it does help the camera focus a little. There's just a little less contrast on for the camera to focus on with the white gloves. But the second and the main reason is, when you're looking at a watch, you're all up close. And personally, I don't really want to look at my or anyone else's fingers, fingernails, and all the sometimes gross things that come with that nice and close. So I like wearing the gloves. I like when other watch wearers, reviewers wear the gloves. Just makes it a little more professional looking. So let's get right into it. And there it is. Seiko Tuna is what this watch is known as. This was a watch that I never really was that interested in for the longest time. It never appealed to me. I never thought, oh wow, that's a cool watch, because on paper, when you looked at the spec sheet, it didn't make any sense. Hardlex crystal, quartz movement, you know, didn't come on a bracelet or anything. At least this version doesn't. Just never really appealed to me. So, but we'll get to that. So it comes in this slightly different Seiko box. This is a JDM model, which I actually did not know that the Seiko Tuna was a JDM model. I ordered mine gray market, so it did ship from here in the United States. But most of the time, you're going to order it from Japan if you go that route. So it comes with the standard Pro Specs JDM type tags. The price in yen, which is 120,000 yen, and the reference number, the SBBN033, the 031 has a black bezel insert and a brushed shroud, whereas this one has a polished shroud. 120,000 yen. The MSRP is around $1,100 to $1,200 US. Most of the time they sell for around the 900 mark. So let's get rid of the box and let's get into it once I get the tags from not sticking on my gloves. There we go. All right, got that figured out. Bump the camera for effect. Good production quality, of course. Okay, let's look at the watch. So, the SBBN033, otherwise known, this is from the Seiko Tuna line. And like I said, on paper and in the past, this watch has never interested me. It's quartz, hardlex, for a $900 watch, that doesn't really inspire much confidence. But you start looking into why why this watch is the way it is. First of all, this is a tool watch. This is meant for diving. This is not meant for the yacht club, nothing like that. This is just meant for actual saturation diving. Now, of course, most people still wear them, don't actually dive, but that's what they're made for. And the Seiko Tuna came out in 1975, I believe. And for the first 3 years, they did put an automatic movement in there. Problem was, the automatic movement had a lot of malfunctions. It didn't work all that great. And so 3 years later, Seiko decided to put a quartz movement in there for durability. And I like it now. Before, didn't really care. I wasn't anti-quartz, but if you're going to spend this much money on a watch, you wanted a mechanical movement. But this movement in this watch is an all-metal construction, serviceable. So if something goes wrong with it, you can take it to a watch dealer and they can actually service the parts. It's not like a lot of quartz movements where it can be hit or miss and generally you just replace the whole thing. And it's a Seiko 7C46 movement, quartz movement. It's a high torque quartz movement it needs to be to move these very big, heavy hands for a small watch movement. Something like that's very important. It hits the indices right on the dot. You can see that it's not skipping. There's not a lot of movement in the second hand. It just tick, tick, tick. So you can tell just by looking at that it's a higher quality quartz movement. And I enjoy the ease of being able to just pick this watch up and go. That's the convenience of quartz. It has a 5-year battery life. Most people say it'll go 6 or 7 years, and it'll indicate when it's starting to run out of battery because it'll skip every second. So it'll tick every 2 seconds instead of every second. So that was that out of the way. The quartz movement, I thought, oh wow, that's actually very impressive. I was impressed by that. And the next thing was the Hardlex crystal. I don't mind Hardlex at all. It's domed, but still legible. It doesn't actually distort really, but it is domed. Not very much, but you can see there just a little bit. And I like that. It gives it a little more, gives the dial a little more depth. Now, this is a printed dial with the Seiko logo applied. It's difficult to see. It is a darker dial. It is a fairly dark black. In the light here, it looks a little lighter just because it's so bright. But I can say that this is a pretty dark dial, which I like. The crown, finally, a watch where I like the crown. The best crown action on a watch so far that I've had has been the Alpinist, the Seiko Alpinist, and this is even better. Now, very easy to unscrew, very smooth, like most watches. You can hear it click. Now, quartz movement, so not gonna do anything. You can spin it all day long. It's not gonna wind the battery up. Pull it out. Of course, it's a quartz, so it does hack. Very quick moving handset when you got to change the time. Lower end quartz, they're very slow. You got to wind it 4 times for it to, do an hour. Nothing like that. So I think 10 after 10 is the official watch reviewer time, isn't it? So you can see the logo and everything. So we'll do that. The best part about the crown, though, is it's so easy to screw in. There's no guessing. Just push it in, and you just screw it in, and there's no doubt. There's no cross threading. There's no, I don't know if that went. Nope, none of that. Just no fuss. So let's go in on the dial here. You can see it says Marine Master Professional, 300 meter. It is an ISO certified dive watch. Like I said, these are actually meant for diving. A lot of dive watches, even if they're certified, they know that most people are not going to use them for that. Most people are not going to take a $10,000 Submariner into the ocean. Some people do, but most people are not. And even though it is the same with this watch, I would say the Seiko Tuna is probably one of the most used dive watches when dive watches were actually still used. So that's a cool pedigree. The shroud, the bezel, the all stainless steel, it just looks like a tool watch, and that's what this is. Not supposed to do anything else other than just take any beating that you're able to get it. So let's move on. The Loom. Now, like most Loom, it's really bright after, when you first step into a dark room or something like that, especially if it's been outside. But most Loom, even lower end Seiko's Orient dive watches, they're really good, and they do last quite a while, but they do die off after a couple hours, and then you can still read them. They're perfectly fine. But this watch, it doesn't really have that initial first 5 minutes where it's just like glowing like a flashlight. But then it doesn't really have that, but it stays very legible. You don't have to bring the watch up to your face to see this time. You can just look at it at any point in time after several hours after being in the dark, and it's always legible. So I'll show that quick. Let me shut the lights off and we can look at the Loom on this. So now, of course, this has been under my LED lighting down here, so it is going to look very blue now. On camera, it looks very blue, maybe a turquoise. I'm colorblind. Don't listen to my color suggestions. But in person, it is actually very green. But it dies down a little bit from this, obviously, like most Loom, but it stays very legible all night long, 7-8 hours easily. So, and there's a Loom pip on the bezel, and that is very pronounced, very legible. I like the orientation, upside down triangle, handset's very easy to read, everything wonderful, perfect. Okay, let's blind the camera and turn the lights back on. And last one back here. That doesn't really do much. But, so, impressive Loom. So, probably one of the more important features of a dive watch. So, let's talk about the strap that it comes on. Now, Seiko, of course, is known for putting on terrible straps. We've gotten used to it, even the JDM ones. You know, very poor leather straps, bracelets, pretty mediocre usually. I've put this on a different strap, but for a personal reason only. This is the silicone strap that comes on it. Now this strap comes on the Seiko Turtle and some of the other lower mid-range entry-level Seiko dive watches. Not the SKX, but the Turtles and some of the other JDM dive watches as well. And it's a silicone band, and silicone's not the most, not the best material, but it's very soft, it's very flexible, it's very smooth. It doesn't feel cheap or anything. It's got the cool, what is that called? Canandala, something like that. The wave, the Seiko wave that they put. It's not the Seiko wave, but they put it on all the dive watches, including this one. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Very comfortable because the ends here, they stretch a little bit. Very comfortable. The only reason I changed this out is because I don't like the ribbing here on the edge. It's a personal taste, but otherwise Seiko, very good job on the strap. Very good. I actually like this. The only wear it was getting was where the buckle would come in. You can see there where it's a little shiny on the edge, and it's not as smooth right there. It's a little, the finish is worn off, but not a big deal. I wore this for about a week or two before changing the strap out. These are not the keepers that come with it. So that's the Seiko strap, and credit to them, very good. But I went ahead and upgraded it to a rubber, I didn't write down I believe it's some kind of NBR or something like that. It's a Benato Cinturini, I believe. I bought it at Holben's, which is where I get most of my watch bands. Beautiful rubber strap. If you don't like wearing rubber straps, give the Benato Cinturini, I believe that's what the brand's called, give them a try. It'll probably change your mind. Very nice beveled edge on the side of it. Gives it a little bit more little bit of a nicer style. Very thick. I think it's about 4 millimeters thick, and then it tapers down, gets a little thinner at the ends. So it's just very nice. Takes it a couple weeks to break in. It was a little stiff at first. It wasn't that comfortable the first week or two, but after that, very nice, very comfortable. And in the bonus with these straps is obviously natural rubber does not smell very good. It's, think of a car tire. Do you really want to be walking around with your watch on your wrist and Goodyear? No. So they infuse it somehow with a vanilla scent. Apparently vanilla is the universal smell for, that smells nice. So that's what they went with. It's not super strong. If you're worried about that, don't worry about it. You have to put it right up. I mean, right up to your nose to be able to smell it. But it does smell nice. It's comforting. Makes you hungry, kind of. Anyway, so, and I put the Seiko buckle, which is very nice. I really like it. It's very nicely done. I put the Seiko buckle on here. Or the keeper. Excuse me, not the buckle. This is the one that comes on the strap. This is the Seiko keeper. Very nice. So let me pop it on my wrist quick. I'll do it off camera. I'll be able to do it quicker, so I'm not hunched over the camera here. It wears very nicely. A lot of people get scared off by the size, but of course, any Seiko Tuna review you watch will say that you don't have to worry about the size, and that's true. It wears like a 40, I'd say a 42 or 43, so nothing like the 48 millimeter dimensions suggest. It is a big watch. It is tall. I believe we'll get to the measurements here in a minute, but it's definitely a tool watch, but it wears very nicely. I have about a 7.25 inch wrist, and it wears very nicely. No overhang because there's no lugs really. Those are the lugs. Basically nothing. I think actually the edge of the case might even come out a little further than the lugs do. So yeah, it's basically, think of it like this. Most watches, even if it's a 40 millimeter watch, it might have a lug to lug width of 50 millimeters, which is really what gives the impression of a really big watch. Whereas this, because it has the stainless bezel, so it has the slightly smaller appearing dial and no lugs, it actually looks smaller than a lot of watches that are actually smaller than this. So yeah, I would say unless you have really small wrists, maybe like a 6-inch wrist, then you probably wouldn't be able to wear it. But I think most people can pull it off fine. And it's a tool watch, so who cares if it looks a little big? It's definitely not going to be mistaken for a dress watch, that's for sure. So let's do the dimensions quick, and then I'll wrap it up so this video is not too long. Let me get my fantastic calipers out here. Calipers, not calibers. Okay. Zero it out. All right. So the specs will tell you that, hold on, gotta love this. Yeah, about 47 and a half, roughly 47 and a quarter. So that sounds huge, but that's way at the bottom. See how that tapers? See how it's wider at the bottom? So really, what it really wears like, honestly, is right up at the top. I'll measure this and then I'll pull it off. About 43 and a half. That's really what it wears like. So don't be put off by the size. I would say don't let the size deter you at all. So a little bit thicker case. Yeah, 15.3. We'll call it 15. 15 millimeters thick. So it is thick, but it's a dive watch. That's what you expect. It's a 300 meter dive watch. So bezel, very nice action. It wasn't that nice when I first got it. I thought it was actually broken. But I just rotated a couple times around and it was perfectly fine. Very easy, very solid. It is very different sounding to most bidirectional bezels. And lines up. There is a little bit of back play to it, not much though, and I misaligned it. I better go back around. Otherwise, all the OCD viewers will be angry. There you go. A little bit of back play, but not bad. Nothing that bothers me. Nothing that bothers most people. This is the first watch that I've had that I can honestly say I don't know if I can really find that many faults with it. Technically speaking, there's really none. Some people say that the minute hand doesn't quite line up with the indice. When the seconds hit 0, it takes it about 5 or 6 seconds. I don't. You can decide if that bothers you or not. I can tell you what, I would have never noticed it. So, I'm going to wrap it up here. Seiko Tuna, the SBBN033. You're thinking to yourself, it's quartz, hard Lex, doesn't seem to be offering much. Give it a try. You'll like it. It's different, and that's why I bought it. It doesn't look like anything else. This watch, there's nothing else that looks like this. As soon as you see this, you know exactly what it is, and that's what I love about it. And that's why this is the one watch. I couldn't say this about any other watch. Not the Seiko Alpinist, not the Orient Triton, nothing. This is the only watch I've ever gotten and immediately thought, I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of this. We'll see if that sticks, but I bet it will. All right, I'll wrap it up. Thank you for watching.